to the highlights, before we get to the highlights, when we had Steph Sale on last time, after we'd finished the show, we had a little chat. We had a little chat with Steph. Good evening, Steph. Good evening, Mrs. Sale. And we talked about loose forwards, and we've actually come into a little bit of criticism here at Super League Broad. We've been a bit harsh on Morgan Knowles. We're not being harsh on Morgan Knowles. We think Morgan Knowles is a quality player. However, he's nowhere near the best loose forward in Super League. He wasn't last year. Yates and Westerman, and we proved that at the end of the season with graphics and
with
a lot of analysis.
Yeah,
and we're about to prove it again. Okay, so St. Helens fans, you might just want to go and have a cup of tea. You're not going to like this.
Well, the thing is, before we go into this bit, even the great John Wilkins said that Saints look better with Bell at loose forward than they did with Knowles a couple of weeks ago.
100%.
So it's nothing personal against Morgan Knowles.
It's nothing personal. Knowles is a quality player, mate. We both like Morgan Knowles. We both like Morgan Knowles.
Yeah, we do. He's a good player.
We do. He's a good player. However, let's get into some analysis. So we were chatting with Steph about this, and he said, "Why don't you put a graphic together?" So I said, "Okay, no, we'll put a graphic together." Ladies and gentlemen, this is this season. It ain't even close. Now, for the eagle-eyed amongst you, we'll start at the top. Greg, obviously, Mr. Knowles has not played as many games. That's because of his indiscretions.
Yes.
Him straight away. As you can see, neither Asiata or Knowles have scored a try. Cameron Smith, 7. And this actually might surprise some League fans as well, how well Cameron Smith is actually playing when you look at these stats. Try assists, 5 for Asiata, 4 for Smith. Yes, that is a 0 next to Morgan Knowles. Tackle bust, 22 for Asiata, 57 for Smith, 5 for Knowles. We'll double Knowles. We'll take him to 20 games. That's what he's on track for. He'd still be a million miles behind him. Clean break, 2 for Asiata, 7 for Smith, double Knowles. He's still only level with Asiata. Look at the tackles per game. Look at the offloads. Errors, okay, he makes less errors. Fair play to the lad, no issue with that. Carries per game, no contest. Meters per game, no contest. Morgan Knowles, I do not get this fascination that Sky have, that other journalists have. Morgan Knowles is nowhere near John Asiata and Cameron Smith. And, it just needs to be put to bed.
Yeah. And who knows? Let's revisit these stats at the end of the season. And let's have an honest appraisal. Morgan Knowles over the next 10 or so weeks may well catch up and could well overtake those two. But so we'll be fair.
Mate, he's going to get nowhere near him.
But an injury to Asiata or a ban, could
stop the season now. He's still getting nowhere near. I'm telling.
But in the interest of fairness,
we should
do this again at the end of the season.
Well, that's great, but let me tell you, it's not going to make a blind bit of bloody difference. I'll tell you what. I'm
not saying it will.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's compare Morgan Knowles of last season, the dream team Morgan Knowles of last year, to John Asiata and Cameron Smith of 2024. Here it is. And there you go. 26 games. He only scored 3 tries and made 3. He only made 29 tackle busts in the full season. Asiata will beat that by the end of the season. Clean breaks, only 5. 24 tackles he got in the dream team. 5 offloads, 13 errors, only 7.4 carries a game and only 48 meters per game. Now, other people might say, well, yeah, but it's not all about stats. Absolutely, it's not all about stats. John Asiata and Cameron Smith, what they're doing for the Lee Leopards and Leeds Rhinos this season in terms of leading from the front, getting involved in the play. I mean, again, if we're not even talking stats, the way they are leading their team, what they're contributing to their team, batters Morgan Knowles.
And to play devil's advocate to that, though, St. Helens fans will say, it could be because he's playing with allegedly a better standard of player around him. That's an argument Saints could use. That's being devil's advocate. And again, that's no disrespect to Leeds and Lee. That could be an argument that they may use.
Well, I mean,
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I'm going to be devil's advocate back. If Saints want to be that, if Saints want to say something like that, John Asiata, he's playing in the best pack in Super League this year.
And there you go.
Simple as.
Answered the question.
Yeah, simple as. But yeah, I think, for me, if we get to the end of this season like we did last and Morgan Knowles is in that dream team, corruption has to be said. I'm sorry.
Well, it should have been either Luke Yates or Westerman last
Westerman
season.
last
So I was
year.
really
Battered him
concerned.
last year.
Westerman, all day long, Westerman. Yeah, I don't. We've spoke about this at length. How certain players seem to have the eye of journalists and of Sky, and are outshone in the same position by players from other teams. I think, you know what? It's not just our sport, though. You do get it in other sports.
You do, mate. You do.
But it's just, and we've got to reiterate, we have got nothing personal against Morgan Knowles, so please don't send him round.
Morgan Knowles is a quality player. However, he is being touted about by journalists in the media to be something at this moment in time. His rugby league is not back. He'll be still a quality player. Don't get me wrong, quality player. He'd walk into many Super League teams. Leeds fans wouldn't have him. Leigh fans wouldn't have him. But there's other teams in Super League who would.
I agree. No, but that's really interesting stuff, especially the last season stats. It's one of life's great mysteries, Dave.
So there you go. That's one for Steph. And actually, it says a lot about Steph's rugby league acumen that he's already said, wow, in terms of Cameron Smith. Of course, he'll have seen Asiata all season. He's the first to put his hand up. He doesn't.
Well, we did say when Cameron Smith didn't get in the England squad, how does he not get in the England squad? We both said that at the time.
Mate, travesty. He has to be. And again, mate, if Morgan Knowles plays Tonga at the end of the season over Cameron Smith, oh my word, what is going on?
Yeah.
Because Smith there, he's just, that is just incredible numbers. They're incredible numbers. After 18 rounds, what's that going to look like by the end of the campaign? Absolutely outstanding.
I agree with you. I agree.
Outstanding.
And yet, out of those three, and again, no disrespect to the teams, who would be the more likely you would say would get a grand final winners medal at the end of it?
I'll tell you what, mate. I'll tell you what, and they won't like me for saying this. Beware of the Leopards.
No, you've
unless I'll tell you, unless injuries strike, the way that team is playing, and this is it. They're not playing as individuals. A great quote from Rowan Smith after the game this week referenced Ash Handley. He said about Ash Handley, he plays for the name on the front of the shirt, not the name on the back of it. What a great quote that was. And that could be said for every Leopards player this year. It's a collective effort.
I agree.
I'll tell you now, a couple of Leigh fans got a bit jittery after In the Sheds. In fact, some got goosebumps because I actually said on In the Sheds, can the Leigh Leopards go into that semi-final top of Super League? Saints play Catalan this weekend. Leigh plays Salford. There's only about 30 plus points between Catalan and Leigh. A big loss for Catalan, a decent win for Leigh, and by the time they go and face Saints in the Challenge Cup, and thank you as well to the Rugby Football League and Super League on behalf of the Leigh Leopards. Saints play on Thursday, Leigh play on a Sunday. Fantastic. Nothing like equilibrium, is there?
Always
the same. But yeah, I would love it in a Kevin Keegan kind of way if Leigh were top of Super League this time next week.